If you're looking to learn about WebEx and you're either a teacher or a trainer, then this is the video for you. WebEx offers including a free version. So if you've got up to 100 students and your sessions are only going to be 40 minutes long, you can use WebEx completely for free. I'm really surprised how good WebEx is. I think it competes very much with Zoom, which is my favorite webinar tool. And in this video, I'm going to take you through all the key things. Creating an account, setting up your first room, making sure your students can access that room, a couple of tips when you do that. We're then going to look at when you're in the room and the most important things like the chat window, the participants list, like using breakout rooms, screen sharing, using the whiteboard, sharing files, all the key things that you would want to do as a trainer or as a teacher. I'll also then show you a couple of things afterwards. How do you share the recordings? What about if you want to take a register who was in the session? I'll put a menu system so that you can jump to specific parts of the video, but this is a very complete beginner's course for teachers and trainers in using the very impressive WebEx. Really hope you like the video, and as always, if you do, please like it, please share it, please comment on it, and of course join me on my YouTube channel. Let's get started. One last thing, many people ask me how I make my videos. I use Camtasia. If you want to try it out, there's a link to test it for free in the description. You can also buy it with a discount. I've provided a link there, and there's also a free 6-part course that will take you through everything in how Camtasia works, and I'll also put that in the description. If by any chance you already know WebEx pretty well, then there is an advanced set of videos on the screen now that will take you through some of the advanced settings in WebEx. But we're going to start actually from the beginning and look at logging in and then creating our first WebEx room. Okay, so we're on the home page of WebEx. Now, just very quickly, I'm presuming that most of you will already have an account because you're working for an institution or a school, university, etc. But if you haven't got an account, if you click on plans and pricing, you'll see that you can actually use this for free for up to 40 minutes per meeting with a maximum of 100 people. So it's very generous. If you are looking to use this as a free tool. Now, if you need to do that, if you do need to create your account, you would click here, sign up, it's free. I'm going to sign in because I already have an account, so I would click here, and obviously, like all systems, there are 2 things that you'll need to put in. First of all, to put in your email address, and then to add your password. So I've added my email address, I've put in my password, I'm going to click on sign in, and immediately it's going to bring me in to the WebEx interface, and it's from here that I can schedule meetings, organize meetings, etc. So by default, when you come onto the system, you'll kind of be on this page here, or certainly on my one. And if we click at the top here, where that will bring us is quite interesting because it will bring us literally to the page where we can start to organize and schedule any meetings that we've got planned. Now, I need to explain just a couple of things about different ways that we can organize meetings that we want our students to attend. So what you can see here is all the meetings that I've got scheduled, and if I wanted to start any of those meetings, I would click here. Now, also, if you want to join a meeting and you've logged into the system and you now want to join someone's meeting, well, if you click on join, what you would normally do is add in their number. So if you have the number of the actual the meeting number, then just put that in and you'll be able to join. Or if you know someone's personal room name, then that will also do. But in most cases, it's going to be a number, and that will be an opportunity to join. Now, what most people are going to want to do, of course, is schedule a meeting. So we're going to click on this button here, schedule, and this allows us to schedule a meeting. Now, interestingly enough, systems like WebEx and Zoom allow you to schedule multiple meetings because it's quite common that you're going to be teaching for 10 weeks on a Monday at 10 o'clock or for the next 10 weeks on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. So we can actually schedule that we have more than one meeting. We can schedule all 10 meetings and it will always be the same link. And normally when you're working in education or training, that is what you're going to do. So let's go through this nice and slowly. The most important thing then, first of all, is to put a topic. I'm going to call this Russell's regular Friday lesson. Okay. Now, the first thing that I would do is to make sure that you've got the right time zone set. So in my case, I'm going to click on, say, for example, I'm going to say I'm in London, and then I would click here, and that would therefore set the time based on London. And then what I can do is click up here and then say, right, okay, it's going to be in London. It's going to be at 4 p.m. So I'm going to put 40, make sure it's p.m. And the meetings are going to last for 2 hours. And click on done. Now, this is really important because if someone from an international country was to access the site, it will clearly show them from the country they are what time it will be in their country. You don't need to worry about that. You always need to set the time based on the country and where you are. Now, what about if you know that this meeting is going to be reoccurring? So you're going to click here, reoccurrence, and it's going to say to you, well, how often do you want this to reoccur? Well, in my case, I want it to be every week. And I want it to repeat once a week. So every week it's going to repeat. It's going to be weekly, and it's going to be on a Friday. And then for how long? Now, there's two ways you can do this. You can choose a date and say which is going to be the last date for your meeting. So for example, let's say that I decided that this meeting is going to go on until the last Friday will be Friday the 13th, okay, of October. So I can do that. Another option is, and I like this one, is to click here. Often my courses are 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And so I say, for example, after 6 meetings. So you've got to kind of work with these two, okay? And then this will, if you choose on and put a date, that will be the last meeting on that particular day. Or as I often do, is just choose the number of week meetings. But make sure, of course, that you've set it to weekly, because of course you could have daily, okay? If you want it every day. And you repeat this, so obviously it is possible that you're having a meeting every 2 weeks. In my case, no. Every week there will be a meeting. It's a weekly meeting. It's always on a Friday, and it's every week. So those are the really important settings when it comes to a reoccurring meeting. Remember what I've said. The link will be the same every week. You won't need to share multiple links for each meeting that you have because it's a reoccurring meeting. Now, the next important setting is here, invitees. Okay, now these are people that you are going to invite to your meeting. Now, in most cases, you won't be doing this. What you will be doing is simply scheduling a meeting. And then once you've scheduled that meeting, then simply people will join your meeting through the link. But if you do want to send invites to people, you would need to add their emails here. Now, one advantage of sending invitations, and the invitations will be sent immediately, you click on schedule. The one advantage is you can also have a reminder sent to students, for example, 15 minutes before. So you can just add the emails and use a comma to divide the emails up. That isn't the way though that I work. I don't know all my emails of my students. What I will do is generate a link and then share that link with my students, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now, the next button is the security. I don't want to get into too much detail here. You have the password, and I would suggest that you don't choose this option. It's not a good idea. You want that one unchecked, okay? Because you definitely want to include the password along with the invitation, and the invitation is generated at the end, and you will want to have they can join the meeting. In other words, students who log in, even if they haven't received an invite via an email, as if they've just clicked on your link, they will be able to join the meeting. Now, you could ask them to stay in the lobby, in the waiting room. That is an option, but I would suggest at the moment, if you're just beginning with WebEx, then the best thing to do is just to allow people, as soon as they log on, to go straight into the window. Okay, this can be interesting. You might want to lock the window, lock the meeting after a certain period. So you say to students, if you're more than 10 minutes late, then you can't join the meeting. That is an option that you might want to choose. I would leave the audio connection options as they're set as the default, so I wouldn't change anything here. When you come down to the advanced, there are a couple of things that I would suggest. First of all, leave this setting as default. I would though suggest automatic recording. That can be a really good thing because often I have forgotten to record. So it's really good that automatically the recording starts straight away. The other thing is that you definitely want to enable breakout rooms. That's really, really important. You need to enable breakout rooms so that when you have a meeting, you will be able to put the students into breakout rooms. Another interesting thing here is if you have emailed your students, so if you've sent them an email specifically that you've added in, remember that we have that option to invite students via an email. If you have done that, this is a useful setting because you can remind them 15 minutes before automatically that the meeting is going to take place. My advice would be to leave these settings as they are. They're simply to do with the options that attendees and participants in your meetings have got. You're all done now and you're going to click on this button here to schedule the meeting. So let's click on that button and now our meeting will be scheduled, and we got it, the information here, Russell's regular Friday meeting, and we can see that we've got all of the join information here. Now what we're going to do is look a bit at how you would share this link with students so that they can access this meeting on Fridays. So the most important thing is, how are you going to invite your students? Well, what you really need to copy in most cases, okay, is simply these first three. So I'm going to just copy those three, and what I'll do is I'll quickly open up a Word document. So let's just paste in that information. So we're just going to click here and paste it in so we can see it. And this is really all we need. The first one, of course, is the link. The second one is the meeting number, and the reason you need to put the meeting number in is because students may join, may have an account themselves, and therefore they will come onto WebEx themselves, and then they will join in the way that I showed you at the beginning. They will click on join and then put in the meeting number. So just in case a student does have a WebEx account, remember WebEx accounts are free. And then, of course, the other thing is that you need to provide the password. Now, this here you probably don't need to provide, so you can delete that. So really, you just need to send these three pieces of information to your students. They will be able to click on and then put in their email, put in their password, and join your meeting. Just before we start, a couple of little things. I don't find this helpful, this copy button, because it copies too much information. It's much easier to copy the invitation from here. Here's where you can edit if you need to go back and make any changes. Here's where you can cancel the meeting. And here's where you can add that to your calendar, okay, which can be a good idea. And here is where you start your meeting. So when you log on and you come onto your calendar, you should see your meeting there. And if we click now on WebEx on the home page and just click at the top here, you'll notice now that that additional meeting will have been added to my page, because there'll be now 3 different things that I've got set up on this system, okay? And notice from here too that I can start immediately. Now, one thing to remember is, though you might have set a meeting, for example, to start at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, you can actually start that meeting earlier. This is just a guide. This does not specify the exact time that you can open the meeting. In fact, you can open the meeting anytime before the actual date of the meeting itself, all right? So this is just a guide to when the meeting is going to be open. It's really for the students. So if I was to click here, this would actually allow me to start my meeting. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to jump over now and begin to look at some of the options when we're working with WebEx. Just a really quick break from the video. If you do like what you're seeing and you want more free videos, please come over to teachertrainingvideos.com. You'll find loads of stuff. There's a whole menu system here right at the top, all the different videos I make. It's all basically technology for education, though I specialize really in the use of technology in language education. But there's videos on Zoom, and there's videos on screen capture and Camtasia, Snagit, and many tools that we use in education. Now, the other thing is, if you want to follow follow my work, sign up to the newsletter. There is a free 14-part course at the moment if you sign up that you will be sent to you. You get sent about one video every 2 or 3 days. There are no tricks. I try to highlight as many free tools as possible. And of course, you get updated on all the latest blog posts, the latest courses, the webinars, etc. You can also find out about my courses here. And of course, if you do want to contact me about doing any training with your organization, then you can contact me from this website. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video now. So we're going to click on this button here. And you'll see that it's going to launch WebEx. Now I'm going to click on this button here. And it's going to allow me now just to really kind of very quickly, as you can see, I'm on the screen, make sure that I've got the right audio system set up so I can see my computer. That's great. Okay, so that I'm happy with that. And also I'm going to want to make sure, of course, that my audio options, if I click here, I can just check my audio options. And again, don't connect to audio, computer audio. So we want that one, of course. Okay. So hopefully now, and don't forget, you're not in the meeting at the moment. You're just trying to get everything ready. I'm now going to click here and hopefully I will be able to start the meeting. Now, one thing I can do is quickly test if everything's working okay. So if I click here, okay, I can see that as I'm speaking, its microphone's working fine. And I also want to make sure that I can hear myself. So if I click here, absolutely perfect. So I know everything's fine. I'm going to close that down and I'm now going to start the meeting. Okay, so we're now in the meeting. Now at the moment we haven't got anyone in. I can of course turn off my webcam, which I will do for a while. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to get someone to log into this meeting so that we've then got a few people to work with and we can begin to talk about some of the basic settings. So you can see that another student's logged in. So one student's logged in now. A couple of things that I would tell you to do straight away. First of all, click on the participants list. And also you might want to click on the chat window. So you've got the chat window and the participants list open. If you've got a lot of participants, you might want to turn the chat window off. Now, first thing is make sure that all of your students have clearly registered and got their names correct as participants. And if they haven't, they can do something very easy. And you can advise them to do this. They can roll over their names, right click, and just simply click on, get the right one here, edit display name. So for example, let's say that Tom wants to change his name. I can change Tom's name as well, but obviously you want the students really to do this, otherwise you'll be doing it for every student. But you will want to do your own one. So I'm going to click over my own one as well. And again, change display name, and I'm going to write Russell Stannard. So make sure all your students do that. It's one of the most important things to do at the beginning. So you've got everybody's name clearly on the screen here on the right hand side. All students can right click over their names in the participants list and click on edit display name. Now if we just going to click on my here on the screen, just clicking on the screen to activate this layout. And I just want to point out a couple of things. We're in grid mode, which means that everybody is currently on the screen, will be treated equally. If we change to stack, you'll see that that will change a lot, because you'll be at the top and then all your students will be underneath you. Now this isn't what your students see, this is only what you see, okay? So keep that in mind. But layout, generally I work with grid because I like everyone to be equal, and as more and more students come into the room, obviously the icons will get smaller and smaller. Now obviously if Tom turns on his video, he would appear here. I can do the same. I can start my video, I'm going to appear here. And if you click here, and this is another nice little tip, I would first of all advise you to full screen view, not to turn that on. And that's simply to do with how it becomes more complicated to deal with all these windows when you're in full screen view. And one thing is names in videos, click on that and make sure it says I always show all names, so that everybody's name clearly appears even when they've got their video camera on. And this can be really important at the beginning of the course, all right? So layout, names in videos, and make sure you've got show all names. Really useful, because if you've got all the students with their webcams on, still you can see the student's name. Now remember that I had a setting that meant that this actual presentation was being recorded. Remember, I've set it that my webinars are automatically recorded because I always forget to press the button. So if I click here, I will actually see that my recording is currently on. Now, I can pause it if I want to. So often you may want to pause it for various reasons. For example, you're taking a break. If you do, please remember when you come back to turn it back on again. And as a default option, this recording is being saved to the cloud. You do have the other option to save the recording somewhere else. However, you can't do that if you set it as automatically. I just wanted to make it clear to you that the way the system works is because I've said automatically start the recording. Immediately that I open up WebEx, then the session is being recorded, but I can come here and stop it, and I can resume it as well. Okay, now I don't really need to record this session actually, so I'm going to stop this completely. Stop recording. I don't want to record this session. There's no need for me to do that. Now, often in a session, again, I'm just opening up the chat window because I'm going to show you some things in the chat window in a moment. But often in a session, you'll have some background noise going around. Students have forgotten to turn off their microphones when they're not speaking. A really handy button is mute all. And that just immediately mutes all attendees. Sometimes I forget where this button is and it drives me crazy. It's always in the participants list. It's such a useful button. And if I click on it, it's going to mute any students who have got their microphones on. Okay, so a couple of interesting things here. We can raise our hands. Students can also raise your hands. When you raise your hand, then if you want to put your hand back down again, you just click on it. Now a student can also raise their hand, and the student, if they raise their hand, will have the same option. But you can put down a student's hand as well. So for example, if the students raise their hand and then you've dealt with their problem, you can click on it and their hand goes down. Now that's not the same with reactions. Reactions work in a slightly different way. So if I click on a reaction and I click, for example, on a smiley face, that reaction will appear on the screen just for a limited number of seconds and then it will disappear. And exactly the same for Tom. If Tom does the same and he adds a reaction onto the screen, after a few seconds, that will disappear. So remember, raised hands don't disappear, but reactions do. So one of the most important things without a doubt is screen sharing. You want to screen share. You want to share your screen so that your students can see what you're doing. You click on here. Now I want to go through a few things that are really important. First of all, if you click on screen, that means you are sharing your screen. And it doesn't matter what you do, the students will see it. Now often you don't want that. You only want to share a specific window, but you don't want them to see if you do something else. So for example, it might be that you only want to screen share. Let's say I only want to screen share when I'm working with Camtasia. So I would click here. And that means that only when I've got my Camtasia, or the only thing that the students will be able to see is the Camtasia window. They will not be able to see if I jump to anything else. So just to make that clear, if I now click on that one here, okay, so I've selected it and I'll click on share, the students can see this at the moment because I am sharing or looking at the Camtasia window. And in fact, I am able to just click here and see what are the students seeing, and I can see that they can see my window. Now, if I was to minimize Camtasia and go to something else, notice that that doesn't visualize on the screen. The students don't see anything now because I've closed down Camtasia window, but because I only shared Camtasia with my students, nothing else that I do on the screen will actually be visible to the students. Now, if I go back to Camtasia, if I click back on here, you will notice that yes, now again, the students can see it. That is really important to understand. Now, if we stop sharing a minute, so we're going to click on stop share. That is not the same if I click on share and share the screen. Now it means that the students will see everything. So you can see at the moment, I can click and show you what they are looking at. The students can definitely see my Camtasia window. Now look what happens if I minimize my Camtasia window and we go to Google. The students can see it. Because now we're sharing the screen. That means we're sharing everything that is everything that's on my computer. So the big difference between sharing a specific window, that means that students can only see when you've got that particular window open and will not see anything else you do. And when you share the screen, and if you do share the screen, then of course they will see everything you see. Lots of people get confused between what screen sharing is and sharing a specific window is, okay? So I've got lots of windows open at the moment, different applications open, and I could share one of those. So for example, if I clicked here on Google Chrome, that's the only thing that the students are going to see when I'm working with Google Chrome. They're not going to see anything else that I do, okay? Really important. Okay, so are there other important settings to think about? Well, yeah, there's a couple that are really worth knowing. The most important one is this, when you're doing the screen share. So if you click on screen share, make sure that you set share computer audio. That is, if you play, for example, a YouTube video from your computer and you screen share it, you want to make sure that the students can also hear the audio. And by doing that, then you are allowing them to actually hear the audio. So make sure that you add that off option so that when you're playing a video, the students can also hear it. A little tip that I would actually have for you generally when you're going to screen share is to turn your video off. So don't have your webcam on when you're screen sharing, because often it gets in the way. And it also means that you're both sharing your webcam and your screen sharing, and that obviously using up data on your computer. And if students haven't got very good connections, then it can affect the quality of what they receive. So a tip that I use, and I do this quite regularly, is that when I'm screen sharing, I turn off my webcam. I then start sharing the screen, and of course I tell my students to turn off their webcams as well. Now, we've got a few other little settings here at the top that are very useful. One of them being the whiteboard. You can click on it and click on the new classic whiteboard. And now you've got a whiteboard that you can share with your students. And of course, you've got a few options here of various things that you can do on the screen, like for example, drawing lines, like for example, writing, and obviously choosing different colors, etc. I'm not a big fan of the whiteboard, to be honest with you, but it is there as an option. You can as well, of course, click and add text onto the screen. So do keep in mind that you do have a whiteboard. Now, if you want to close your whiteboard down, so at the moment, for example, we're working with the whiteboard, and let's say that we want to come back, just click over here on the left hand side and click here, and it will close your whiteboard down, okay? And I'm not going to save it, and then we come back in again. All right, so just to do that again, share, jump over to the whiteboard, open up your whiteboard. So I'm opening up the classic whiteboard. You can do whatever you want to do on the screen. If you've finished, then you click here, you close it, and I'm not going to save, so I'm going to say no, and then it just brings you back as if you're not screen sharing anymore. It actually stops the screen sharing. Now, we've got two ways of sharing files with students. One is we want to show them a file, and number two is we want them to download that file. So let's just have a look at the difference here between this. If we click on share, and then we click on file, and then we click on share file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly, for the sake of this one, just open up this presentation here. If I click on open, it's going to open up this PowerPoint slide onto the screen, okay? And then the students will be able to visualize it. So this is not offering the students the opportunity to actually download this presentation, but rather just to simply see it on the screen. Okay, so I can now obviously click through To move from one page to the next, you just click on here and that would allow you to move back, okay, and forward through the slides. Now, of course, the students can't download this. What about if I actually want the students to download this file? So if you are sharing a file with your students, like a PowerPoint slide, and we are limited here because not all files can be shared. For example, if I remember rightly, PDF files can't be shared. But if you want to obviously stop sharing, click here, very much like with the interactive whiteboard. Click here. In this case, I'm not going to save, and it will bring you back again. Now, if you want to transfer a file to students, it's completely different. Come over to File, click on Transfer, and then what you would do is share a file that you want to access. So you would click on Share File. So I'm going to do exactly the same again. I'll go to the Get Desktop and I'll share that particular file with the students. So I want them to actually access it. So if I come down here, click on that, click on Open. Okay, now the students will be able to click on that file and click on Download. Okay, so they will be able to access it because you've shared it with them. Okay, we're going to close that window down now and move on to perhaps for most people one of the hardest things for them to do, but perhaps in many ways the most important. And as I've said, there are many features that I'm not focusing on. I'm trying to really focus on those things that are most important for teachers and for trainers. And that, of course, is breakout rooms. Now, remember, we've already set the breakout rooms. We did that in the settings before we activated breakout rooms so that breakout rooms are available to us. So because they're activated, I simply click on breakout rooms. Now, we've got a few options. Let's say that we want to create free breakout rooms and we want to assign participants automatically. And if you have got the lobby activated, it's a good idea then to include people that are in the lobby so that when you, obviously if you've got people waiting in the lobby and you want them to come into the session, then that will include those people as well. So when they come in, they will go straight into a breakout rooms. You can assign manually. I don't use this option, or very rarely do I use this option, because even if I assign participants automatically, I do get the chance to move participants around if, for example, there are two participants that I don't want working together. So generally I use automatic, and that's what we're going to focus on now. So I'm going to click Create Assignment. Now that does not mean that students are already in breakout rooms. No, it just shows me that I've got 3 breakout rooms and that I've got Tom in breakout room 1. Now I've only got 1 student, so there's no one in breakout room 2 and there's no one in breakout room 3. Now if I clicked on Start Breakout Rooms, then yes, Tom would be moved into breakout room 1, which is what we're going to do in a minute. So let's start the breakout rooms. Okay, so Tom will move into breakout room 1. He's not going to be in the actual main room anymore. He's going to be in breakout room 1. And Tom is asked to join breakout room 1, and I can see that he's now agreed to go into breakout room 1, and I know that Tom is in there. Now, can I visit Tom? Yes, I can. I can click here and I can join the room where Tom is. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to pop in and see Tom in his breakout room. So we're now in a breakout room with Tom. Now what about if I want to leave that breakout room? Well, there's a few options that we've got here. One thing is, look, show other breakout room sessions. You can click here and it shows you the other sessions that are on, and I can actually join those. So if I wanted to jump into breakout room 2 or 3, I can just click on this button here and then jump into breakout rooms 2 or 3. So I could click here now and join breakout room 3. Now when I come into breakout room 3, of course there's nobody in here because I've only got 1 student, but you can jump here and join the other breakout rooms. Okay, so now I've jumped into the other breakout room. Now what about if I want to come back and want to leave the breakout rooms and come back? So if I don't want to actually jump into another breakout room, but rather I want to leave the breakout rooms and come back to the main room, well, I can click in breakout sessions and you'll see that I have some really interesting options. Okay, first of all, if you look down here, I can broadcast a message. So I can click here and I can send it into all sessions, and I can type something. Say, for example, I'm going to say, hi, hello everyone, and maybe remind them of the question that I want them to think about. So I can send that into all the sessions, but I can also send a message to specific sessions if I want to. Okay, now most of the time I send a message to everybody, and often I will say to them, you've only got 5 minutes left, or here's a reminder of the question, etc. Okay, so this is also really useful. I can do that and I just click on send, and that message is sent to everybody. Okay, now anything else that we can do here that's important? Well, one of them of course is, how do we get out of the breakout rooms and back to the main room? So this button over here is useful if you want to move between one or another breakout room. But if you actually want to leave the breakout rooms completely and not jump around, then click on the breakout session to open it up. You've got it open, and simply click on leave. So you will leave that breakout room and come back to the main room. Now, just to go through that again, I'm just about to join another room. So I'm going to join room 3. Let's imagine that I'm in room 3. I don't want to go into room 2 or room 1, but I want to leave completely. I click on breakout rooms and I simply click on leave. So I'm not going to join another room, but I'm just going to simply click on leave, and I come back to the main window. Okay, now when I want to end the breakout room, I click on this button here, and the breakout room is terminated for everybody. So we're going to click on this button here and end the breakout rooms, end sessions, and all the sessions are ended. And we're now all back into the main room. Now it may take a while for people to come in. If you look up here on the right hand side, you can see it's actually going to take 1 minute for everybody to come back into the main room. Now we are able to control this a little bit and make it quicker. And I'm just going to go through a few settings when it comes to breakout rooms that are quite important to think about. So as you can see, it took Tom 1 minute to come back, and that was because if I click on breakout sessions and click here on settings, there are a couple of really important settings for you to remember. Okay, the set countdown time, how long does it take for the breakout rooms to close and everyone to come back to the main window? Well, for me this is taking too long. I would reduce that to 30 seconds. Allow 10 attendees to return to the main meeting. Now, often I don't want this to happen. I don't want students to just leave the breakout rooms until I've closed them. So a good idea to turn that off. Allow attendees to join a session later. Now, this again is another problem, because if you have this selected, that means you're inviting students to join a breakout room rather than pushing them into the breakout room. So my personal option would be to turn that off, so that when you create the breakout rooms will immediately, or the students will immediately move into the breakout rooms without you actually waiting for them to say yes, let me into the breakout room. No, they will be moved into the breakout rooms and they won't have any choice. Automatically end the breakout rooms after X amount of time. I never set that. So these to me would be really, really good settings. When sessions end, give participants more time before returning to the main window. No, I don't do that either. Okay, so all of those really are actually going to be off with a countdown set to 30 seconds. That would be my advice to you. Obviously you may want to set them in a different way, but I find that really when it comes to breakout rooms, you need to have quite a lot of control. So attendees can't return to the main window. Attendees can't choose when to join a breakout room. Whenever you open the breakout rooms, immediately they will go into it. Automatically end the breakout rooms after a certain amount of time is not useful personally. And when the session ends, to allow students to stay in the breakout room, no. Again, I think that you want to bring everyone back. If you see that people want more time, you move them back into breakout rooms again. Now, if we click back on the breakout rooms button, so I'm just going to click here and open it up again. If we click on it, open it up again, and we wanted to start breakout rooms again, notice that what will actually happen, let's imagine we've got some students in here and some students here and some students here. We start breakout rooms, the students will all go back into the same breakout rooms. However, if you don't want them to go back into the same breakout rooms, but you want to restart completely, click on the reset button, and that will allow you to kind of start all again. And again, you might choose this time to do fewer or more breakout rooms depending on, and this will replace all existing breakout rooms. Now, quite often you do want the students to move back into the same breakout room, so you would just simply use that button. But if not, then click on reset and reset everything, and it will be all fresh, and students will be in different rooms from the first time round. Okay, so we're going to close the breakout rooms down. Now, there are so many more things that I could show you in WebEx. This was an introductory course. It went through the basics. And what I am going to do now is end the session and show you a couple of things about after the session. For example, where are you going to find your recording and where can you find the register to see who actually attended the meeting. There are, as I've said, many more settings to look at, but I think as an introduction to WebEx, that will go through and we have covered all the key basics that you need to know. So we're going to end the session. You click here and you've got two choices. You can end meeting for all or leave meeting. Now, if you leave meeting, that means that someone else in the room will become the host. Normally, you wouldn't want to do that. There may be cases when you want to do that if you've got 2 or 3 other teachers in the room with you, and then automatically one of the other account holders will become the host. But in most cases, you're going to want to end meeting for all. Remember, if you leave the meeting, then it will mean that the meeting's still continuing. You're simply not there and someone else will become the host of the meeting. We're going to end the meeting for all, and then we're going to look at a couple of settings after. So click on that button here, meeting now ended for all. So I'm back on the WebEx system. I'm going to come down to recordings. I can see here that my one is probably not ready yet. It's still been generated, okay? So I can't actually at this current moment share this meeting with my students, but I've got one here below that I've done, and I would literally click on this button, share button, and it will give me the link so that anyone with that link, and you can click it to copy, will be able to view the recording, and remember of course to send them the password. Okay, so that would be the easiest way after of sharing the link. In this case it's a public link, but they would need to share the password to access the recording. A final very useful button, if I click over here on the right hand side and I click on more features and click on my reports, I can actually get a breakdown of the number of students, or basically it's a register, and it will give me information about who attended the meeting. So you would click on usage reports, you would choose your dates. Now I'm going to set it back a bit so that we can kind of jump and find one from a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to get it to display any of the meetings. I've got here a couple of examples, and if I click here I can see that there was a meeting for 128 minutes with 18 clients, and if I click on it, it will actually give me a breakdown of all of the students who were in that meeting, their email addresses and their names. Okay, so really hope you found that useful, and as I said, please come over to teachertrainingvideos.com. Loads of content here along the top, but also you can just scroll down. Some of the more popular videos are on the front page. Remember, if you want to sign up to my newsletter, there's a 14-part video course in using technology in education. It's completely free. There are no tricks, and nearly everything I focus on is free. If you do want to contact me, then you can contact me from the website, and I'm going to leave some videos on the screen now about other aspects of technology in education.